now it's time for Hans Vestberg, who is the CEO of Verizon, a big high-tech company, a global one, based in New York. And before, Hans was the CEO of Ericsson. Hans, are you there? Yes, you are.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Hi. What time is it where you are?
It's I think it's 8:30.
8:30.
So it's a little bit in the morning, but it's absolutely okay.
Early bird. You've been engaged in the fight against sexual exploitation of children for quite a long time. Actually, as far as I understand, it started when you were the CEO of Ericsson. How did it come about? How did it start?
I think it started in conversations with NetClean, actually. I think it's 10 years ago. I cannot even remember, probably longer ago. And we decided to implement the NetClean software across the entire Ericsson footprint. And as you know, Ericsson have employees in 180 countries. So it was a very dedicated process, country by country, because there are different laws and rules and how you do it. But we did that over years, and together with our legal department, we took country by country. That's how we started. And then, of course, I've been engaged in the UN for many years. I'm in the board of the UN Foundation, and I have been in the board of the Childhood for quite a while. I just left that board. So, yeah, I've been part of that. And it's pretty simple. I mean, I've been in technology all my life. I see all the upsides of technology. I see that's one of the few ways we can bridge the gap of inequality in the world. But I also realize that there are challenges with technology, and we need to work with that side as well, as our fellow colleague from SKF said. We need to work both with the bad side of digitalization. Clearly, we also need to take advantage of all the positive we can do from technology.
We just had, as our first keynote speaker, we had Queen Sylvia as chairman of the Childhood Foundation.
Yeah.
But Hans, when you first then implemented the software at Ericsson and you got the first result, what was your reaction?
I think we're always equally surprised when you find this type of content, and people have been abusing the system and actually abusing children. I mean, I think that we all feel equally bad about that, and so I think it's just feel really bad, but it's the right thing to do in order to see that you start with yourself first. And I think that's how we felt at Ericsson at that time. Before you talk about everybody else doing something, start with yourself, and that's where we started at Ericsson to implement NetClean.
There might be a conflict here. There are authorities, institutions, police, legislation who are actually in charge to be responsible of this kind of stopping this kind of crime. And then there are the private companies with different. I mean, you are profit. That's your main driver, and you have stockholders, and you need to take care of your brand and so on. How do you think about the responsibility of the private sector?
No, it's huge. I mean, first of all, I mean, Verizon is, I guess, one of the 20 largest companies in the world. Our responsibility and our voice is stronger than government sometimes. So, of course, to see that you're taking the right side in things that is part of your strategy, that's so important. And children, inequalities are part of our core values of the company, and then you make it part of it. So we have had for quite a long time, sort of in our strategies, 4 stakeholders. We have our shareholders, we have our customers, we have our employees, and now we have our society. And all of them are actually equally important, because if you start compromising on one of them, you're going to have problems with the others over time. So it's not like one is more important. You just need to manage all of them, especially I would say in large corporations like ours that has such an impact. And that's why we work a lot with digital inclusion, with both the positive side and the negative side. But it's also part of our strategy, because we build more broadband and wireless technology than anybody else basically in the world. So that becomes very normal for us. And I think that we have seen during the last 10, 15 years, private sector actually being much more part of the society and taking the responsibility. We can always do more, and we should do more. But clearly, we are on a path where we see corporation taking much more responsibility. Then, as you say, it's also a collaboration with the private and public. Many of the largest challenges we have on this earth cannot be one-sided solved. All of them are basically in between public and private. So that's why it becomes so important to have this collaboration with UN, with other organizations that we work with. I mean, we, for example, when it comes to child abuse, we work with the NECMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That's how we work with them to get the right inputs and what they know. So I think that's how it's actually evolving for many of the corporations.
Very brief, but could you give us some very concrete examples how you work in order? I mean, you're into connectivity, and connectivity is the core of this entire business, child sexual abuse. How do you work? Some examples.
So first you need to understand how we're set up. We have Verizon Consumer Group, which is basically wireless business and fixed broadband to customers, where we have content on top of it, and then our business group. Then we have Verizon Media Group, which is, of course, all the Yahoo brands that we own as well. So very much on the Yahoo brands, we work very closely with the NECMEC. We have photo DNA in our system to detect all types of child abuse material coming there that is known. But we also have our own sort of team of employees that are investigating and reviewing all material that we see, and of course report both to NECMEC but also to the authorities. And finally, we have our in-house investigators that constantly is investigating what's happening internally as well. So we have a broad set of people working with this daily, given how much content is passing, especially on the Verizon Media Group, where we have all the Yahoo assets.
You were involved in the process when the UN adopted the 17 goals of sustainability, and you pleaded for one more goal, number 18. Tell us the background and tell us why.
Yeah. Yeah, as we all know, it's 17, so I failed. No, I thought when many of the biggest challenges on earth that we have today, if it's child abuse or if it's healthcare, education, one of the few ways to actually see that is eradicated is, of course, using technology. So I advocating for having one goal that would be mobility, broadband, and cloud, which is basically 21st century's infrastructure, that every country should see that they have that technology in order to reach their citizens and be able to give remote healthcare, remote education, etc. So that was the reason behind it. Today, of course, you can say that all 17 goals have digitalization inside them. And I think when we're seeing this extremely tough situation with the pandemic right now, as well as the economical downturn, we have finally taken the leapfrog, actually start using these digital tools. And that should be to benefit for many of the most vulnerable in our society. But it can also be the biggest challenge. If they don't get access, if they don't get broadband, if they don't get the digital content that is supporting their needs, that it's even going to create a bigger vulnerability in our society and even bigger gaps. So that's what I was advocating for, and I'm still working quite a lot with that daily here in the US.
But very concretely, what difference would it have made if we had got this 18th goal?
I think that what we see right now, out of the 193 countries being part of the UN, it's only 130 of them that has a broadband plan, that has a plan to really roll that out. I think if it had been gold, we have been following up that much more cautiously, and we would have every country in the world that signed up for the SDGs that actually would have a broadband plan to see that all their citizens would have access to broadband. But not only that, because sometimes it's equally important if you have the broadband, that's just a platform, but also that you have digital content, like for education, for healthcare, for social information, to see that it doesn't matter where you're born or where you are, you should have the equal opportunity. So that would have made a difference. I think that many countries actually have taken that very serious and are implementing it quite vehemently when it comes to these plans. And Sweden is one of them in the forefront, and in every sort of benchmark, Sweden is coming out very highly when it comes to broadband penetration and seeing that the citizens are connected. So I think that would have made a difference. I think now people and countries are realizing it's of essence. It's so vital, because we've seen this in this pandemic and this economic downturn. If you are not digitally connected, you're actually outside all support and all possibilities to be part of our society.
What was the resistance? Why didn't you come all the way through?
I think it was so many other goals. I think they needed to decide how many goals they can have for all these countries and have it have a consensus around the 193 countries. I think that was the main thing.
And you will still fight for it, or?
I fight it all the time, and I think that what we're seeing right now at the US, at the World Economic Forum, in the UN, we see clearly much more work around digitalization as a mean to bridge the gap, because we need to understand that if we had the gap to reach the goal 2030 for 1 year ago, that has increased. Given that we have the pandemic and economic downturn, we actually need to do even more to reach those targets. And one of the few means is digitalization.
Hans, we have heard here how when a child has been exploited, the pictures will always be out there. I mean, they can be taken down, but they pop up somewhere else. And the child, coming adult, has to live with the knowledge that it might come out these pictures when she enters college, or when she has her first interview trying to get a job, or getting married, or whatever. And there is a constant fear because the images are there. And I mean, the most efficient way is to stop them at the source when they are taken, when they are produced. But if that's not possible, as an old tech guy, what kind of technology would be needed in order to stop these pictures for good when they have entered internet?
The internet is a very broad set of technologies with servers all around the world. So of course it's a really tough task. And as you said, to stop them at the source is absolutely the best, so they can never get out again, and that they are deleted. But if that's not possible, I think that systems like the photo DNA or like NetClean are the best ones you can have in the systems in order to detect and take them away immediately, and do it automatically, not having sort of manual detection, because there's too much. And that's why we need this type of technologies, and they need to fortify. And I think with AI and all the new technologies, we're going to be even better to detect these things and being able to take them away much quicker from the net.
But that's amazing how it's not possible to take them away much quicker. Is it hard to define what is a pornographic child picture, or what is the problem? I mean, what I hear, you can take down terrorist pictures. I was with IS, for example, quite quickly. You can detect them. Why don't you find these pictures or take them down?
No, I think it's the same with. I think the same with the terrorist or with child. I think the same. You need manual work to do it, and then that's basically from the social network companies to doing that, and they would have tens of thousands of people only doing that manually in order to find it, because ultimately you need to see them. If the photo has not ever been up before, you need to do that. But as said, I believe that AI over time will be able to be so intelligent so they can actually detect it as it comes up, and I'm sure that the Googles of the world and the Facebooks of the world are working with that constantly.
And when do you think it comes?
I cannot say, because it's more them that is working with that than us at this moment, as they have user-defined content coming up to the platforms all the time, and that's very important to see that that's avoided. And there are many other platforms as well, of course, that are more obscure that you cannot find. But ultimately, it's all about having these technologies out. But remember, no one owns the internet. It's a conglomerate of over hundreds of thousands of servers that are connected, and that's one of the problems. But clearly, technology will advance. Unfortunately, the bad guys will advance as well. But our job is to advance quicker than the bad guys.
When the pictures are entering the dark web, I guess it's even harder to find them and to take them down. Or is it the same kind of principle, the same kind of technology, and the same kind of search?
It's basically the same type. It's just that it's a little bit harder to get in there, but in general, it's the same type of search and the same type of things.
Hans Vestberg, Verizon, thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.